So before I get to my Week 7 NFL picks, just a little side note here is that starting this weekend and probably each weekend throughout the rest of the NFL season, I'll come on here and do weekly DraftKings fantasy football videos. Not associated with DraftKings in any way necessarily, but for those of you that play the weekly fantasy sports like I do, maybe some of you are looking for lineup advice, what have you. Now, some of you might ask yourself, why should I listen to you? Granted, I haven't won the Millionaire Maker or anything like that, but pretty much every week I make some type of profit off of DraftKings. And this past weekend, if you want something that'll make you feel a little bit better about your 1 point or half a point fantasy loss because of the Monday night game, I was in the primetime competition where the top prize was $100,000 and missed out on first place by 9/10 of a point. Basically, Jordan Matthews' fumble cost me an extra, because it would have been a four-way tie for first if he didn't fumble, cost me an extra $33,000. Or if I would have went with my real gut instinct and played Riley Cooper instead of Jordan Matthews, I would have finished solo first and won $100,000. So chew on that. So take that to mean what you want, but maybe I can help you win some money. I've won myself some money. I'd like to see some of you win money as well, especially as long as DraftKings and other sites like that are still going to be in operation. Might as well get in while you fit in while the getting is good. So look forward to those videos coming up soon. All right, so anyways, time for my Week 7 picks. Recapping week number 6, I had an okay week, going 8-6. The biggest disappointment probably was Indianapolis losing to New England. I know I was kind of mocked at and laughed at for making that pick, but I was somewhat serious in the sense that, while I didn't make it seem that way, I thought the Colts were going to be on a bit of a mission to prove that they belonged, and I think in some ways they did. I mean, I couldn't envision the stupidity of what Chuck Pagano decided to do on special teams with the onside kick in the first half, and then what the hell that fake punt was in the fourth quarter. I have absolutely no freaking idea. The Colts were in position. The Colts could have won that game, and in some ways, maybe the Colts should have won that game. That was a perfect example of how bad coaching can cost you a game. You could clearly quantify it. It's clearly tangible. You can see where coaching cost a team a victory. But it is what it is. Still, winning record, not as good as Week 5, but it is what it is. So let's move on to the Week 7 picks. You start off with the Thursday night game, a pair of 2-4 teams. Can you imagine that? The Seattle Seahawks at 2-4, traveling to San Francisco to take on the 2-4 49ers. The Seahawks, for Christ's sakes, have the same record as the San Francisco 49ers. We would have envisioned the San Francisco 49ers in this spot. I don't know if anybody envisioned the Seattle Seahawks in this spot, but maybe we should have. The Seahawks' offensive line, especially in the interior, stinks. They struggle to protect Russell Wilson. They're not the same type of team in terms of their physicality and running the ball on offense that they have been in years past. They trade for Jimmy Graham and still haven't fully figured out how to properly utilize him, although the Sunday game last week against Carolina maybe leaves Seahawks fans hopeful that they're starting to figure out the guy can't block, so just throw him the goddamn football. But defensively, they're just not the same type of intimidating force. They don't look as quick. They don't look as fundamentally sound. There's miscommunication. There's all different types of issues. It just doesn't look like a very good Seahawks football team. And when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, they've played a little bit better football over the past couple of weeks. Kaepernick's played a little bit better in particular the past couple of weeks. So you come into this game, and it's not a foregone conclusion that the Seahawks are going to win this by any stretch of the imagination, especially when you look at the history between the two teams. They're very familiar with each other. They play very similar styles of football. So it could lend itself to a slight 49ers upset here. I'm not going to go get that adventurous. I'm still going to pick the Seahawks. I'll say, at least for this week, that I'll still stand behind them and believe that they'll figure it out. But if they don't figure it out this week, they're going to lose, and then all hell could break loose in that Seahawks locker room come the rest of the year. Now we go to the Sunday games, and we'll go to that London game that's streaming exclusively on Yahoo. Yippee! The Bills taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills are going to be out without Tyrod Taylor again this week, and we'll see how much of an impact that has. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, they won't have Allen Robinson, or if they do, I think they might, but it will be in a somewhat limited capacity coming off of his leg contusion. For the Bills, they'll be without Sammy Watkins. They'll also be without Percy Harvin, who sounds like he might be wanting to retire now. Who the hell knows? Heading into this matchup, you know with the London games how it usually goes. One team travels really well, one team really doesn't. There's things to really be concerned about with the Bills. You know, they're starting Manuel again. I think Rex Ryan could be potentially losing the locker room a little bit, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is supposed to be his strength. They're just not using their personnel right. Mario Williams and others are absolutely right. It's ridiculous what they've done. But I think the Bills maybe come out against the Jaguars and make a bit of a statement, so I'll take the Bills to beat the Jags in a quasi-home game for the Jaguars. Now we'll move on to the rest of the Sunday action. The Lions found a way to win last week in overtime against the Bears. Not a very impressive victory, but I expect them to be able to hold serve again at home and beat the Minnesota Vikings. I'll take the Falcons over the Titans. I'll take the Colts over the Saints. In a bit of a surprise here, there's absolutely no real reason you could look at and say that you should pick the Kansas City Chiefs over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 4-2. The Chiefs are 1-5. The Chiefs look terrible. They've lost Jamal Charles. Their defense isn't the same. Their secondary gets shredded. And the Steelers might be starting Landry Jones, which is probably going to be a clear upgrade over Michael Vick. So why the hell would you pick the Kansas City Chiefs? Because recent history indicates that this is the type of game that the Pittsburgh Steelers would lose. A week after beating an Arizona Cardinals team that they probably had no business beating, now is the type of game where you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and their recent history and say that they'll lose to the Kansas City Chiefs by 10-plus points. It's just how they've been under Mike Tomlin the past few years. A lot of Steelers fans know exactly what I'm talking about. Years past, losing games to teams like the Buccaneers, the Jets, and the Raiders, really bad football teams. This is that type of matchup. You're playing in Arrowhead. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Chiefs win. That's why I'll pick the Chiefs. I'll take the Rams over the Browns. I'll take the Dolphins over the Texans. The featured early afternoon games got to be the 4-1 Jets traveling to New England to take on the 5-0 New England Patriots. You know, hats off to Todd Bowles and that Jets team, that entire Jets organization. You've surprised me. You've played really, really well. And I think you match up pretty well against the Patriots. If Fitzpatrick can minimize his turnovers, which has been a problem for him against the Patriots in the past, if Chris Ivory can control the game and the clock on the ground, which is a possibility against that Patriots defense that really isn't all that particularly good, the Jets could definitely win this game. At the end of the day, though, I'll still go with New England. I think they're on a mission. And I think they'll find a way to beat the Jets, although a Jets shocker here would not be shocking to me at all. I'll take the Buccaneers over the Redskins. I'll take the Chargers over the Raiders. In the late Sunday afternoon matchup, because it features the Cowboys, of course it's going to be America's game of the week, and everybody's supposed to give a fuck about it. The Cowboys traveled to New York to take on the Giants. The Cowboys are sitting there and hoping that Matt Castle, of all people, and Christian Michael are going to be their saviors for this season. Holy Christ, that's how bad it is. The Dallas Cowboys, like other teams, are paying the price for criminally ignoring their backup quarterback position over recent years. However, the problems for the Cowboys go beyond just the offensive side of the ball and the quarterback position, because you look at last week's game against the Patriots, they gave up 30 points. This is a defense that's given up some points, and as a result, you can't just blame the quarterback for that. It's an entire team effort when you're good, and it's an entire team effort when you suck. And in this particular case, the Cowboys haven't been that good since Romo went down, and it's been a total team effort. So they really need this victory here. The Giants looked terrible on Monday night. It was one of those games where you expect it out of the Giants under Eli Manning 2 or 3 times a year. They'll just have that game where you're like, why in the hell am I even watching this? This is terrible NFC East football. And that's what that Monday night game was. And for all intents and purposes, this could be that type of game as well. I think maybe it's a placebo effect where people are going to think, including the players on the Cowboys team, are going to think that Matt Castle makes a difference when he really doesn't. You know, probably going to get big days for guys like Jason Witten in the passing game, as Matt Castle loves to throw short and check down. I'll take the Cowboys here. I think coming off of a bye, for a team that really, really needs a victory, again, coming off of a bye, I think they'll find a way to get it done. The Sunday night matchup, you got the Eagles traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Panthers are playing good football. They're finding ways to win games, perhaps even games that they should lose. That's what good teams do, is win games they should lose. You got the Philadelphia Eagles kind of winning in spite themselves on Monday night because Bradford's still terrible. I can't believe anybody would trade for Sam Bradford and think that he's going to make you into a contending team. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Now, granted, with the Eagles, maybe they've already started to finally figure out something with DeMarco Murray in that running game, as he finally went over 100 yards for the first time on Monday night against a Giants team that was previously the number 1 ranked team against the run in all of the NFL, even though that stat was a bit misleading. Heading into this matchup, I think the Carolina Panthers are a more disciplined team. They're a better defensive team. They've got the better quarterback. They'll find more ways to win a game than the Eagles can. The Eagles will probably find more ways to lose a game, in part because of Chip Kelly and his play calling and or Sam Bradford and his decision making. So give me the Panthers on Sunday night to roll. And then Monday night, I'm going to take the Cardinals over the Ravens. I look at the Cardinals right now. They're at home going against that Ravens secondary. Carson Palmer should, in theory, have a big, huge day. Steve Smith may struggle for the Ravens going up against Patrick Peterson in that Cardinals secondary, and there's not a lot else there in the passing game. So I think the Cardinals could win in a potentially ugly one on Monday night. Again, you're welcome to go against me with your weekly picks in the comment section below. And let me know what type of help you need in terms of decisions for your DraftKings lineup. I'll probably have that video up on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Next up on this channel, though, will be an updated 2016 NFL mock draft. Oh, goody.